This man had a dream: to take an international team across the world from London to New York, overland, through the unknown Siberian deep freeze and across the treacherous Bering Straits. His dream became a reality on this amazing journey overland to America.
Tried to save it yesterday when the engine stopped. Oh, but let's go! It's great, the car driving to New York. I'm very excited.
And to give it to you, the United Nations here in New York, all the way from London. My name is Richard Creasy. My fascination with adventure started when I was 7, when I drove around the world with my father, crime writer John Creasy, and my mother and my brother. This journey started with a dream to drive all the way from London to New York, something no one's ever done before. So, join me for the next 2 hours for what turned out to be one of the greatest adventures of modern times. After years of preparation, we were ready to drive into the history books by going through the Channel Tunnel, which finally connected England to France. And at last, I had time to reflect on what had already taken place since the idea first came to me. Preparation in Sweden for Arctic temperatures, selecting the team, although it was interesting how they almost always selected themselves. Finding millions of dollars in sponsorship money, planning logistics, getting United Nations endorsement, and last but not least, getting myself ready to leave my hometown for the adventure of a lifetime. 2 days after Christmas, in 1993, we started out from London. I was handed the UN baton, which, touch wood, I'd take to New York with messages in it from leaders of all 10 countries through which we planned to travel. Our first record was broken in the 5 hours it took us to get through the Channel Tunnel. No one had driven from England to France as part of a journey before, but I was fully aware that to make it round the world to New York, a lot of other records would need to be broken by our international team.
5, 6. Here's another one. 6.
Français, one.
Where do you come from? Moscow.
Yes.
Moscow.
Moscow. Oh. Terrific, we got through. I couldn't be more pleased.
Past the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and through the Brandenburg Gate, that key symbol of the Cold War until Berlin Wall fell in 1989. We were on our way to Moscow to form an alliance with the West's former enemies.
Congratulations, this is Moscow.
I'd been there 50 times since Gorbachev had come to power, and in so many ways, this was by far the most exciting. I was dying to share Russia with my Overland team.
I think the thing that scares me most about Siberia is some of the ice roads, and the ones that haven't been checked, vehicles can go through the ice, and that would be my largest concern. It's happened in northern Canada where you're driving along, it just breaks underneath you and the whole vehicle sinks, and it's very hard to get out.
If somebody does get trapped in the vehicles, or if the vehicles go down, if we've got any crush injuries, we have provisions to provide basic anaesthesia and pain relief so that we can extract people from the vehicles.
Put your hands up.
We have got Victor, who is really a very, very experienced man. And the first time I saw him, I said, "Can you really drive a car?" Victor said, "Well, I can drive a car, I can drive a helicopter, I can drive a submarine as well." I said, "Fine, then no more questions."
Major General Viktor Karputkin was clearly going to be a driving force. But it was Vadim Tumanov, a survivor of Stalin's labor camps, who had first convinced me that crossing Russia in midwinter was possible, provided we worked with the Russian people.
-30 is a figure where things still remain at a constant. Below that, I have no experiences in those temperatures.
As we continued along the foothills of our expedition, we began to get to know each other.
When you drive the hands on 10 and 2 position, yes? And drive the corner, so, it's not good.
Yeah, but you know, this thing is going around, and we are not supposed to go around, we are supposed to go straight.
Yeah, teach us how to go straight without going round and full 360.
This part of Russia, like so many we were to drive through, had been closed to foreigners because here, in the middle of the Ural Mountains, is where the communists built all the army trucks you've ever seen carrying rockets in Red Square military parades. In this small wing of the vast Ural factory, the team saw the six-wheel drive Ural trucks for the first time. They'd been winterized especially to withstand temperatures of down to minus 70 degrees centigrade. During the coming months, we would travel, work and sleep in these Ural trucks, and they would be our only havens in extreme weather conditions.
It's quite impressive actually. We've been next door and things are just out of this world. Obviously it's their equipment's a bit outdated to what we're used to, but other than that they've really got things well organised here.
What I'm doing here today is packing all the food away, and we're organizing it in specific lots so it goes into trucks where we know we can find it. It's boiling hot inside this warehouse today, but it's going to be 60 below where we're going, so we want to make sure it's easy access. Also that we don't eat too much food too early, because I'd hate to be hungry in Siberia.
Russia's world-famous hospitality swept us from reception to reception as we journeyed across the largest landmass in the world. But this one, put on by workers at the Ural factory, was the most lavish. We left London. 2 minutes ago, we left the inside of the Ural factory.
И 2 минуты тому назад вы покинули стены вашего завода.
I'd like to say that I know that your being here will give us the spirit to go from Europe into Asia properly. As we left the factory, it was cheering to see so many of the workers give such a colourful send-off to our enlarged team, now over 40 strong.
That they sent us away from that town into the heart of the Russian deep freeze after seeing those wonderful beauties. They should have been brought along with us, I think. We're going to be broken men by the time we get to Siberia. There'll be nothing left of us. We'll be dancing with dreams of these ladies in our minds. We'll probably go insane.
The English speakers were becoming more and more apprehensive, while the Russians remained as confident as ever, as we reached the very heart of Siberia. Little did they know what was up ahead.
We've been here about 15-20 minutes, just having a quick breakfast before we move on. So at minus 50 now, the cars have been here and the dampers have completely frozen solid. So when we drive away, we've got to drive away for at least 10 to 15 kilometres just to slowly wear anything up.
As the first full month of relentless 12 to 18-hour days passed in steadily dropping temperatures, tempers and engines began to overheat. That was especially true of General Viktor Karputkin. Victor, who was more used to driving tanks quickly than a saloon car slowly, had taken to charging ahead, not unlike a lone Russian bear. Right, explaining to Victor that if that car breaks, he doesn't have another car until Fairbanks. And that's not what Victor wants. Or I can lead by just giving orders. I can do that very easily. I don't want to.
On both occasions, cars cut up the column, came in very fast into the column, with several men inside them of dubious-looking character, and the Edic took the decision to pull out his pistol, and in the police car they pulled both cars in, and made the occupants see the sense in not following the column any further. So I think there were problems. There's no doubt that we have been an attractive target for local criminal elements because we've got a number of valuable cars. They're just interested, and they're very intrepid. They don't care about the police at all.
What kind of thing can they do to you? What could happen?
They can obviously just steal things. They have absolutely no regard for the law at all. The Soviet Union's breakup has meant there's just no moral code whatsoever. If you could call their code moral, the criminal practices have just exploded out here. And the mafia, as I say, have automatic weapons. They can politely ask you to leave your car and give it to them as a present, or they can just shoot you. And quite often they do both.
As was so often the case in this vast and varied country, in fact larger than Europe and America put together, the people we met en route welcomed us with so much warmth that our concerns quickly disappeared.
I can't believe it. And I've missed a few of these. This is just the faces of the people. It's like you're coming in completely different. Beautiful clothes and the faces of the children. I mean, they can't see many people from the West, and it's just, I'm actually astounded by it.
Omyakon is the coldest place on Earth. Here it gets far colder than the North and South Poles, and it's here that we suffered our first casualty of the Siberian deep freeze.
Mixed reactions this morning. Unfortunately, during the evening, I was woken up this morning to say that L2 wasn't running, which rushed out and concerned me, but basically what had happened was, I don't know whether you've seen, some mornings, with the exhaust, it builds a stalactite or a stalagmite up from the ground, and because of the extreme temperature we had last night, below -55, it completely engulfed the end of the exhaust system and stopped the engine by killing the passage of exhaust gas. So consequently, the engine temperature in the engine dropped down to, it was the best part of -50. We couldn't start the thing because of the efficiency of the battery, the starter motor and everything else. This would hardly turn the engine over. So we had to drag the thing, manhandle the thing for 4 kilometres down the road behind the Ural, just to eventually turn the engine, the transmission over. We couldn't select gear, we couldn't turn the steering wheel. Everything was just completely frozen up solid.
If you got stuck out here for the middle of the night and had to spend the night out here, you would not survive. You'd be dead by morning.
We wouldn't.
It's, things break here too, it's so cold.
Yeah. And every degree which goes down from about 40 onwards feels colder. And -40 now seems so warm.
Tropical.
I mean, you take your gloves off for 20 seconds and we're all fighting to get our gloves back on again. It's cool. It's good to be here, though. It's good to get to a milestone.
It's time to get out of the coldest place on Earth, I think.
It is.
Nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live here.
Going down, it's just about -57. -57. Have a look at it at the moment. This is the place.
You come a little bit. Yes. Okay.
As the convoy passed through these hauntingly beautiful surroundings, we knew that our journey through Russia's foothills was coming to an end. From here on, we'd be on our own, making our own way forward, creating new routes over territory which very few had travelled before. So it came as no surprise to me that everyone and everything was starting to feel the strain as we reached Sussman, near the very end of Russia's state-maintained road.
No, we're not talking about the Russians now, we're talking about individuals and how each person feels. If they feel shattered, whether they feel they need half an hour, whether they're not just being a pain and saying, I want to stay in bed, but they need that half hour. Why? If that's what they feel, and they... No, because some of you are driving more or less than others. And why should that person get sick? Because of you. Because you're saying you should get up in the morning.
You are being pretty dismissive about other people's feelings and attitudes. You're saying there's an expedition, we have orders, and we have to follow those orders.
No, there's an expedition with an objective.
But you're saying the objective is all. Surely the way we carry on as an expedition, Jeff, back me up on this, is the way we do the expedition, not to make it a grind that we have to get up in 5 hours' time because we have to discuss what we're going to do next.
We're here for 100 days, and I think that's what the Ural truck driver should realize. That's what the other people here should realize, that there's a continuation of this entire project, that if we keep going the way we're going, there's huge implications to physical deprivation, sleep, a lot of those things are horrible.
It's up to us to put it to them as a group.
You know, you can't just suddenly dismiss people because maybe they don't adhere to what you term as orders. You've got to understand that people have their own needs and own wants, and they have to fulfill them within the time that they have.
Well, then with their own needs and own wants must realise they can't have them. That's what they've got to learn. It's the other way. It's not
Dion, you can't just switch your whole life just for 3 months.
Yes, you do.
You are the person that you are, and you can't change that.
Richard's style of leadership is he's right at the top of the pyramid, and there's a lot of information that comes up to him, and he takes the very final decision. And a lot of that information, intelligent people as a group, you can begin to decide for yourselves.
The decision that I've had to make now, and I've decided to make it by myself rather than with other people, is what cars to take forward and what cars to stay back. How many cars to take forward and how many cars to send back. Now, back means to America. And what will happen today or tomorrow is that 2 cars are going to leave the convoy and go down to Magadan. From Magadan, they'll be flown out to Fairbanks.
When I heard about the expedition, obviously to drive a car from London to New York, overland, would be a great personal and it was a great thing to do. It's an expedition. You know, I mean, you look at people that have done expeditions before and you admire what they've done, their courage and the things that they've actually been through. We've got to a stage now where the elements have actually beaten us. There's questions that I physically cannot answer. I thought. I'd worked in -30 before and experienced -30. I've never experienced -55 and below. It does things to men and machines that I can't answer. There's going to be a lot of questions asked as what happened or what went wrong. I know Richard sees it as a triumph that we've actually got this far, but obviously, as from a personal point of view, I'd like to go a lot further.
I found that disappointing Paul by losing the 2 saloon cars was my most painful decision so far, but I had no doubt there'd be worse to come. In the meantime, it was inevitable at this time of year that the road ahead would be daunting even for the 6-wheel drive trucks.
Колеса прямо поставь. Не качай, она пойдет. Пошел. О, отлично.
I'm very determined not to be a person who says, you drive or you drive or you drive, until I have to, and I haven't got to that stage yet. But I know that Paul's concerned, and the Russians are very concerned, that we could actually blow clutches terribly easily through inexperience on these kind of roads. And my feeling is that what I'd like to do now is to make sure that in each car, and we've only got 4, there's at least one, what Paul would call, because he's the guy in charge of the car, strong driver, right? And I'm not going to say at this stage Jenny or Marielle or people who aren't considered to be the strong drivers, and I don't know who they are the wrong people to drive, but I do think that we shouldn't have Dieter sitting in the back on sections where it's difficult, and I don't want Paul having to cannibalise the car to keep the other ones going.
I now know that the right decision was made, because this isn't a Sunday afternoon drive. This is serious. Nobody's been here before other than a huge, great big truck. And that wasn't very long ago. Because unfortunately the state of the road, or what there is of the road, is very, very treacherous.
Luxury. It's the Arctic limo. Pink curtains, orange decor. The bone shaker.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. It'd be great if by the end of the day we could have a really clear idea, because obviously it's of some concern that we get it right. Excellent. Thanks. Yeah, we've got some worries about fuel consumption at the moment, because as Paul just said, a litre a kilometre, and that's the cars. We're meeting some very, very tough road conditions already, and the cars are having to work really very hard, and they're in low ratio 4-wheel drive. So we've only got 5,000 litre petrol tank, and I'm worried, seriously. You know.
The invisible difficulty of the cold, which gives you no way in which you can walk away and think for yourself and concentrate on things, is very, very much more difficult to cope with than I thought it would be for my own personal self. I think that it's a much more lonely job being the leader of the project than I thought it would be.
Hello. How many people? 2? 2 people?
Nice, no good.
How's it going?
Do you have your other knife, Jack?
We'll get another knife.
Is that one right?
Пошли в этот фургон. Фургон, и там отвернут. Топором раз его, и все.
Не, that's not fair.
Да? No.
Can I have a bacon? Can I have a chicken casserole love for
Why? Why?
I can't have bacon beans twice on a Monday. It upsets my tummy.
Aww.
Thank you so much.
You don't like breakfast for lunch?
No. Goodbye.
He's mad. Siberia is doing this to him.
Chef, do you want something?
I mean, here I am. I'm a man who got 99.5 in his psycho-proficiency test. And I've been seriously demoted as a driver. I'm in the back here cooking the food. International racing driver, the French Grand Prix. I've rolled cars, crashed trucks. What else have I done?
Sank cars.
Sank cars. Tell me other things I told you. Stock car racing.
You've gone through the bike with the death roll.
Death roll on the bike. Thousands of things.
Gone through fire.
Here I am demoted to... My first role was Ice 2, in-car entertainment 2, and now I'm Chef 2. Yeah, but Peter, it was beautiful. You cooked my dinner and it was lovely. Chili con carne, what can I say? I'm going home.
A defeated man.
This journey cannot be negotiated during the summer months, which is why we were forced to travel from Siberia, notorious as the single most inhospitable area of land in the world, is at its most fearsome. path now lay along the Kolomar River, the heart of Stalin's labour camps, better known as the gulags. For much of the year, it's simply running water, but in winter the Kolomar freezes over and is used as a winter road. This stretch was beginning to put our Ural trucks to the test, and I felt that at long last the expedition was truly underway. The danger of the ice river is that on the bottom, the current has to go through, and sometimes the ice will freeze right down to the bottom, and that means that the current has to go over the first layer of ice, and it will then form another layer of ice on top of it, and then go over the next layer of ice. So the problem that you get is there's water underneath the river, but not full ice. And the big heavy trucks and other cars regularly fall through. In fact, earlier last week, 2 people died on this river because they fell through the ice. So it is very serious. That wasn't serious, but we are all very cautious about it. And when I first saw the truck go in, immediately the doors fly open so that people can jump out. This was all right. We're near the bank, and we're trying hard to keep near the bank whenever possible. But it's always difficult when you've got ice when you've got snow this thick, you can't see what's underneath. The snow fell faster. 3 feet collected in 3 days. The Russian drivers decided to make up tow bars for the 4-wheel drives so they could be hauled behind the trucks. It seemed that the exhausted drivers sometimes needed to be towed by the women. From the start, their presence on the expedition had been questioned by some, but now it was clear that their stamina was more than meeting the challenge of the elements.
Move faster. Schneller.
Все ясно, никакого чувства юмора. Проблем. Please. Отлично. Sit down, please. Let's go.
As the snow continued to fall, boredom was added to exhaustion during the long and slow days of towing. But the team spirit won through, and we pushed on.
What word precedes dancing, dozen, and hairy to produce 3 film titles? What word precedes dancing, dozen, and hairy to produce 3 film titles? 30. Yes, sir. Brown, which you already have, but you need to answer anyway, so you can't go ahead, but you can stay up with it.
So it's funny because we created our own language using Russian, of course, and French, and some Italian, some Spanish, some English. So all those words together, we kind of created our proper language, our proper way of speaking, and we can have nice conversation. That's very interesting. So I like it. I like to be here. When it's very difficult, they complain on the radio because the road is very bad, because they can't see. So he tells jokes all the time. He speaks to them, he encourages them, he puts music on, very lively music on, and I don't know, I think he's very, very human.
And somehow, as the Russians and English speakers became one team, the world started getting smaller.
Come on. You're not used to blowing up children's armbands, are you?
No, go on, Paul, give me then we can get the pins out and... Ah, look.
Ah, man of experience. Why's it turn green?
He'll go dizzy in a minute.
Let Mark finish it off, do the final touch. Yeah.
They are. You've travelled the world.
What I have to do is
Don't
squeeze.
drive, don't drive.
Why don't you squeeze it?
Yeah.
There you go. So, we started about, there you go, there's London, and then France, Germany, Poland, Belarus, right the way through there, then up here, up right through Lens, Yakutsk. Memorable evening that was for all of us. We relaxed well, had a good party. Unfortunately, I had to watch the video of myself the following day, which everyone else found amusing, but I didn't. Couldn't remember half of it, but I suppose that's the enjoyment of a party. It was one of the best ones we've had, so we haven't drunk much on this at all. So and then we come from Yakutsk along there. There's not a lot of other places that we've been.
This is one of our first lunch stops on the rivers. We're actually just a few miles south of the Arctic Circle. Today's specialty is chili con carne, and we're going to start boiling it up or heating it up in the heaters. Want to give me a hand, Jenny? Snow's about 3 feet deep. We're having to tow the trucks right now, which is too bad.
Got it.
You got it? Thank you.
No more.
That's it. But it's beautiful out here. Rush hour traffic.
Okay, just give these to everybody?
Yeah.
Do you have your knife there?
No.
In the 7th week after leaving London, we'd arrived in the Arctic Circle.
Чтобы вы все прошли. Вот одной ногой здесь стоите, вот пройдете туда, уже за полярье, через полярный круг. Я прошу вас это отрезать. И все с хорошими пожеланиями пройдете туда.
Quick speech. I think just to say that this gives me great pleasure to cut my first blue and coldest rope that I've ever seen.
Jump across!
Great!
We're here!
What oh, it's cold here in the Arctic Circle. I have a...
Richard, congratulations. Thank you. That's terrific, isn't it?
Yes, another little snippet from my diary.
Happiness, happiness is being in the Arctic Circle. Here we go. In, out, look at this.
Yeah, we've been watching it for the last 3 days on the GPS, which Global Positioning System, basically a series of satellites that give you a fix within several meters anywhere in the world, and so we've been calling out that we're coming.
And be honest,
finally we're here.
It was 2 kilometers back.
Yeah. The U.S.
Don't tell the Russians.
The U.S. Defense Department has spent $10 billion to let the Russians know that the actual Arctic Circle is about 2 kilometers that way, but we won't tell them.
Yeah. No, it's really what I think is so good about coming here. It's partly crossing it, and partly seeing the genuine, terrific fun that people are having just getting to know the milestone. And that's in a way what this journey's been about. It's been a collection of people really enjoying getting further.
Okay.
From the milestone, it was back to the grindstone.
What, Maverick Ural, yeah?
Just like it was last night.
Я слушаю.
Maverick Ural.
Да, я уже сказал так.
So who's your paternal Ural?
Day after day, we all rose with the sun and kept on moving for hour after hour until it was well past midnight. The snow conditions were infinitely variable. Each of the four-wheel drive trucks teamed up with a Ural truck, and soon the Russian drivers started to refer to the Fords as zaychiks, little hares, which were towed, let loose to dart forward, and then needed towing again. And in one long day, I recorded 20 punches brought about by the eternal cold. But fatigue was balanced by lots of lighter moments.
He's very young man. Okay, what are you doing?
What happened? What happened? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, we are talking about women. He's very young man. You see, so he is thinking about young women, and you see what happened. That's all. Thank you.
River.
Yeah.
Is the road very flat.
Flat.
Speed 80.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
No
bumps.
No.
Oh,
Нет, но не отсюда. Еще немного проехать.
Я сказал, подсказал.
Он спрашивает,
Long. Длинный.
Длинный.
Okay.
Get in there. Teacher.
Russian teacher. We teach him Mariel. Good teacher. Accent French.
French accent.
Study English. Accent French.
S'il vous plaît.
S'il vous plaît.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yes.
It's time to go.
Please hurry.
He's picked up a lot more than we have Russian, which is a shame really, but we pick up the odd word here and there, so it's getting more and more enjoyable. Everyone's sort of mingling as one big team now, so there's no more them and us, so we're having a right good laugh with them. So it's the vodka nights are getting a bit heavy though, and sometimes they do like a quick drink before they go to sleep, but it's normally not a glass, it's normally you have to drink a bottle, so it's all right though, enjoying it.
As the international team lost all its national inhibitions, I found myself worrying less about achieving our goal, being the first to drive across the huge landmass of Russia, and more about safety, the repercussions of a real storm, and the ability to cope with it. By now, I was sure we would be able to. The big question was, what would we do if the elements really turned against us? In the meantime, the snow had cleared, leaving us free to speed along our ice highways, with Victor in the lead. Sometimes, of course, it's not possible to please everyone.
I don't care what Jeff said, because I've just found this crack. And you can get your hand in there and you can actually feel the ice moving. And when the Ural trucks go over it, you can see the ice sort of undulate. I mean, if this cracks, as the vehicles go down, you've got less than 10 seconds to get out. So I've been heating all the windows and putting them up and down to make sure that if it does go, I can get out quickly. Jeff's just been talking, saying it's all nice and safe, but I'm not so sure. A couple of Ural trucks went down about 2 days ago, just straight through the ice, and that was it. Everybody gone.
And then, as if out of nowhere, came a Lowry painting. Smoke was rising from the chimney stacks, which were silhouetted against a wintry horizon. We had arrived at Chersky, built after the Second World War, when millions of soldiers became political prisoners. Those who had survived were forbidden to return home, so they stayed, and we met their children.
To some extent. Well, you see, it was founded in late, I guess, 40s as a place of exile, you see, for political and other prisoners.
Yeah.
No, later, portion. It was a place of exile, you see, for political and other prisoners.
Right.
Yes.
Here I am in a tiny village of Chersky, which is right at the north of the Kolmar River, in far, far, far east of Siberia, the north, as they say in SIS, in a tiny little library run by 3 librarians, and here's one of Dad's books. And it's an extraordinary feeling. And not even that, but even more bizarre, it turns out to be an Inspector West book. And here we are, page 55, and there's a little passage about me, because I figured in all the Inspector West books as one of Inspector West's children. And when Dad wrote, he would write exactly what was happening at the time to me and my brother Scoop. So here it is in Russian with Richard, and the guy with big ears, as they said. And so we left Chersky and headed for Bilibino. One of the worst legacies of communist rule was the almost unthinkable way in which they shifted people to populate the most sparse and remote areas of the country. To keep these men, women and children alive, they needed heat and power, so huge subsidies were poured in. In Bilibino, they went nuclear. Now, with no more help, the money has disappeared. And what amazed me most about this power station which we visited, which was not modelled on Chernobyl, was that none of the workers had been paid anything at all for 6 months, and they didn't know when they would be.
We had a look at a Geiger counter outside, put our hands on it, there was no sign whatsoever. Nevertheless, it's impressive. Yeah, as everybody said before, there's no chance you get to stand on the reactor in any Western country. So, quite an experience. I just hope it doesn't have any long-term repercussions.
Not far away from the Bilibino nuclear power station was a nuclear mountain, a gulag, where uranium had been mined by prisoners as recently as 1951, the year I made my first journey around the world. There are very few words that can describe the horror of what took place here. You know they were brought here only to work the uranium mines, that they were brought here to die, basically. It's shattering. And Jeff, who would build a place? Can you imagine anybody building a place on a mountaintop like this?
You look around and it's got to be one of the most horrific human places in the world. Civilization would never build a place here. I mean, you'd only build a place here if you wanted to kill people. And each stone was probably dragged up from the bottom of the valley by human hands and feet, and they'd put them up here and they'd contribute a few and then they'd die. It's unbelievable.
I think every Russian would feel the pain that the country has been living with, and some sort of guilt. And I sometimes wonder when people were making so much fuss about women, Jenny, Marielle, and me being on the expedition. And I don't understand how Russians can forget about the women who were sent to gulags. And to us it's a challenge, nothing else. Probably we want to prove to ourselves if we can make it. But I think this has been done before. And to the women who were sent here without hope, deprived of any human feelings, deprived of the warmth, deprived of their families and children, it was a survival. And I only hope that we can be a fraction of them being strong. And I feel very proud for being Russian, because no matter where you are, if you're Russian, you stay Russian, you remain Russian. It's in you, with all its pain and glory and magnificence and cruelty. And to think of a cruel place like this in magnificent surroundings makes you wonder. And I often thought that cruelty and beauty in Russia go together. And this is part of the Russian soul, I think.
I think the thing that astounds me is the volume of people. You know, the population of Canada is almost 25 million, and they estimate that size of country was put out to these gulags. I mean, the size of Canada, it's phenomenal.
As we arrived in Bebek, on Russia's Arctic coast, I was brought quickly back to the present. Within 2 hours, a howling wind swept through the streets and past the empty apartment blocks. Who, I wondered, would want to live here, given the choice? The answer lay not far away. It was at Chukchi. The team were invited to visit them at a reindeer farm, while I met with the logistics crew and worried about the possible change in the weather and the route we would take from there. This is a home and workplace to Chukchi, who are clearly at one with the serenity of their Arctic homeland. And it was here we were joined by Ronnie, an Israeli parachutist, and Monia, a former Palestinian prisoner of war. They had joined us as part of UNESCO's Youth Reconciliation Project and were about to be thrown in at the deep end, but not quite yet.
We're about to just go and see reindeers, which are about 1 or 2 k's down into the valley.
убегать будут они.
Yeah, running away, yeah.
И потом будешь бегать, не бежи.
Then shall we go away?
Да, а то убегать, они боятся, убегают.
Don't run, walk.
Да, да.
I got you. Don't run at them.
Лучше потихоньку вот так.
See.
А то вот так.
No, right. Mistake. So walk. Should I walk this way slowly?
I've been walking the whole way. Oh, I knew this would happen. Look, they're all coming round and we're in the middle. We're in the middle of a reindeer herd. This is great. But they're all charging now. I was trying to give them some appetizing food, but they weren't coming near me. I've just heard the noise that we're supposed to be doing. And it's a reindeer noise. It goes something like, no. But I was going yab yab. Do you hear it? The reindeers are making it. Do you hear it? I think that's the noise they're making. Needla, there's no wonder why they haven't come near me. Whenever I stopped doing the noise, I decided to sing to them, at which stage they ran even further. Mind you, I can't say I blame them at all.
Would you like her?
А он не возьмет.
Is it food? Do you have food?
Вот так. Ага, вот. Не, вот так.
Yalla.
As we set out for the summit of this section of our expedition, we learnt that Chukchi had 16 different words for snow, and the snow we looked likely to encounter is akin to quicksand. Our Russian teammates were beginning to lose their earlier confidence, especially as the Russian army, who were due to escort us, had just backed out. Chukotka was completely unknown territory to them. The desert of snow we were driving through looked heavenly, but it could be deadly.
We came out of Mishmit last night, or yesterday afternoon, and there was a monument only 5 kilometers from Mishmit of a lorry driver who'd been stuck for 5 days in a blizzard, couldn't get that 5 kilometers, didn't know where he was, and died in his cabin when the fuel ran out. So that's a very, very difficult area. So you're in life and death decisions up here.
I kept telling myself that this was a land that no one had ever driven across before. I shouldn't be surprised it was difficult. But under a cloudless sky, I somehow expected us to be going faster.
Well, just basically making very bad progress at the moment, going along at about literally 2 miles an hour, and we've got at least 60 miles of no road at all. And the track vehicles have just gone ahead, and I've seen that. I've seen that there's about 3 meters snow depth up ahead, so we don't really know how to get around it. And so someone's going to go up ahead with the track vehicles, probably with the GPS system, and try and work out the easiest route to get through. But it's not good news because we're really out with the arse in the wind here, and it's going to get dark soon, and we've got nowhere to go. So difficult.
I decided that Victor and Rupert should go ahead with the one man in the region who had a military track vehicle. His name was Monasterny, another survivor from Stalin's gulags, and he knew this land well enough to know that we shouldn't be going where we would be going. Indeed, it had taken me 2 days to persuade him to lead us there. Their 5-hour scout was to take 5 times as long as we thought. They got trapped in the outer edge of a storm that had been threatening for days and was soon to engulf us. days later, the storm that I had been so hoping to avoid all the way across Russia hit us.
Look underneath the bonnet. Tried to save it yesterday when the engine stopped. But I couldn't stop the snow getting inside the engine. And no more an engine. As you can see, it's just unbelievable. We covered the whole front with polythene. The wind blew the polythene off. It's been blown absolutely everywhere. If you look inside this vehicle's not too bad. But L9 back there nearly has a foot of snow inside the vehicle in places. It's incredible. It's just destroyed it completely. Shut it down, Mark.
Soundproofing. Soundproofing with a difference.
For 5 days, we were cut off from the world.
Well, no, logging out will just tell them that they can't get through.
Why don't you just
better not to log out.
Yeah, no, but then at least they can get a message back to us. If we log out,
No.
but doesn't it hold messages if we've logged out?
No,
you just leave it open?
Just says logged out.
Leave it open.
It's going to take a while. They need to get through to Moscow. Moscow then need to contact here. Moscow then have to come back to them. It's going to take 5 to 6 hours.
Midday, your time. Midnight. We will log on midnight to 12:30. See, this is the problem.
Chop it up with the legs.
What did you do, Kev?
Sorry?
What did you do?
Oh God, we're trying to get cold. We're trying to get water. Because we've run out of water. We've been several days in the trucks now, which we didn't anticipate for, and unfortunately the wind's got up rather strong again, and we had to break the snow up with an ice now. We'll try and melt it on the boiler. With all the snow and ice we've actually got here, we might be able to get 2 or 3 cups of tea, but this is the only liquid we've actually had since we woke up this morning. It'll be a very welcome cup of tea. But I tell you, it's cold out there, and even my gloves are now full of snow from the wind.
Frostbite! On the left.
Oh, good version.
Where? That's frostbite. It's about 7:30 in the morning. We've been driving through the night in conditions which, well, even the chuk-chuk, the people who live out here, wouldn't drive in. And everybody says what you do on days like this is just close down and do nothing. But we have an astonishing driver. Who we call a tundra man, who's led us from a really appallingly windy base where you literally could rest on the wind.
He's just immensely experienced in the north as a geological. He's as a geological driver for research for geological stations, and he just used to go out on anything. He says everyone else would never normally go out, and this would be a complete no-no for them. And he says this is a pretty bad hurricane. We're very lucky to have got as far as we have.
Well, we're about 90 kilometers out of Lavrentia. We've had quite an epic struggle over the last 5 days of being stuck in a blizzard that's one of the worst ones I've ever seen. Winds of up to 50 miles an hour, and it's been really hard on the trucks as well as the people. I think the overall impression, though, is how incredibly hard our Ural partners, the Ural drivers, have been working. It's the last 3 or 4 days, and incredibly tough situations with their vehicles basically breaking down every hour almost. They've put in an awesome effort, and it's wonderful to see, because we had a bit of a conflict 3 days ago with them wanting to stop, and now one of their guys is sick. Doc thinks he's fairly bad, and we need to get to Labyrinthia. So they're putting it all together, and it's exciting to watch. We're just sitting in here right now trying to boil some water for people. We're running out of water as well, running out of diesel. Everything's slowly falling apart, but it's near the home stretch, so hopefully the weather will subside and we'll get the hell out of here.
And then suddenly it was all over. The storm disappeared as quickly as it had arrived.
I'm feeling well. I want to sleep. But no, I don't want to sleep. I want to lie. I want to lie on the bed. I don't want to talk.
As we arrived in Labyrinthia, 10 weeks after leaving London, we once again drove into the history books by becoming the first people ever to drive all the way across the largest landmass in the world, to the very edge of Russia.
Hello. Hi.
But even before the celebrations had started, I knew that team morale would soon be shattered, because I would decide that night that only 4 of us could attempt the Bering Straits crossing.
We made it!
All right, my love.
Bering Strait, here we come.
This Hercules was the first American cargo plane ever to be allowed to land at this frontier airport. But as it arrived, the team feelings were torn.
I don't know why I'm here. What was the point of asking me to come on an expedition if I'm of no use? But people that are going need encouragement, so I'll have to, before I go, I think about half an hour, so I will give them my best. Godspeed and all that. It's just not in my nature to be pleased about it. It's the way I feel.
Inside this plane was a vehicle in which we'd try to cross the Bering Straits. I'd only recently discovered that it was smaller than I'd been led to believe, and slower. This, and my instinct born in a storm that the Bering Straits would be much more dangerous than we could imagine, now led me to reduce the risk and split my team that had got all the way across Russia. Arctos, the name of this 10-ton amphibious vehicle, is Greek for polar bear. Its tracks are designed after polar bear claws. Ours was a prototype, commissioned by the Canadian government for use as a lifeboat for oil platforms in the Arctic and for icebreakers. As it emerged from inside the Hercules, I couldn't help wondering if I'd made the right decision about so few of us going, but it was already too late to change my mind. Our 4-wheel drives were being loaded into the space left by the Arctos. Amazingly, Paul and Mark had thawed them out after the storm and would now fly with them to Alaska. And the rest of the team said their goodbyes to our Russian friends.
Well, very, very sad. We are leaving a cold case, I'm sorry.
We hoped to meet up again in a couple of days' time, but little did we know what the next few days had in store for us.
You ready to go in the next half hour, 40 minutes?
We really should.
We'll just get going. It's ready for us. Thank you.
And so we scouted the Bering Straits, the 50-mile whitescape between Russia and America, a frozen wasteland with its solid waves of ice, which no one had ever crossed before. I was filled with a sense of awe.
It's a lot better than I thought. The land-fast ice all the way to the jumping off point is very simple for the vehicle. We're very comfortable. And there's some very large pans of ice across the Bering Straits. So as long as we take the right course, we'll spend very little time in the water and the moving ice. It'll be fine. I'm confident.
But as the weather in Labrentia got up to its tricks again, I had lingering doubts about our being able to take on the elements. Doubts that crescendoed when I heard the cold weather had already got to our mechanical polar bear. The Arctos had broken down within hours of arriving.
What we're doing is turning off the shaft is originally in two parts. So what we're doing is we're trying to turn off the second part that we need without damaging it. And it's very difficult. We're down to hundredths of a millimeter in tolerances, and this machinist here in this rather rustic machine shop is doing a marvelous job.
The weather had at last got to us human beings as well. The Bering Straits is a dangerous part of the world.
We got a nasty frostbite when we went out with string and tent pegs, looking for the road, and it got infected. I should have dressed it, I suppose, after he did it properly. And he's such a mucky pup. He went and got a nasty, what we call a spreading fasciitis in his left arm, and the infection was quite nasty. He'd had to have been admitted to hospital if he'd have been at home. And luckily I brought some broad spectrum antibiotics with me, which you can give through a drip.
Very tasty.
Which is very tasty. Which is what that is. So he's been on it for the last 48 hours, and it's cleared up, fortunately. But the infection was spreading right down his hand, in the tissues, and spreading up his arm. If it wasn't treated, then it would spread down into the hand, up into the arm, and he'd become septic, get septicemia. If it wasn't treated properly, it could be very serious.
4 days later, the Arctos was back in working order. We were ready to move. And Major General Viktor Karputkin at last had his tank.
Well, off we go. How do you feel about it? I'm a bit boggled, really. I just hope I'm doing the right thing. But, I think there's so many people around the world wishing us good luck, family and everybody, that I really feel we're going to achieve it. So all I can do is hope and pray and look forward to meeting you all again on the other side. So much work's gone into this, we can't let everybody down now.
We have this vehicle here, we're going home.
On March 11th, we set out. I was once again feeling in a record-breaking kind of a mood. After all, we only had 50 miles between us and America.
tower, Arctos to tower, do you read? We're in big trouble. It's 6:30 in the morning here. Nothing else I can do right now but make some tea and coffee for my friends. As you can tell from over here, we're in a bit of trouble. Vern just told me that these things are bits to put on even in a shop. The track fell off last night at about 11 at night at the bottom of this mountain over here. It's almost 400 meters away from where we are now. We're in a really bad situation. I don't know what the hell we're gonna do.
As the wind picked up and the temperature got even colder, our options were running out. Radio contact with our backup team in Laventia was lost, and there was no sight of their helicopter. Left to our own devices, Bruce, Jeff, Victor and I split the 2-ton track in half and rolled it back to the Arctos. It took all day. It was only as the sun was setting that our backup team finally found us.
Right under here is there's where the 2 punctures are. Right up under the bottom, you can always stick your fingers up inside it. Right up in here. Got punctured by a huge sharp rock. All this stuff is ripped off. This thing's a mess. There's another hole on the other side. I don't know what the hell we're doing going on the rocks. It's just been a horrible, horrible blow to the expedition. I hope it doesn't stop us dead. Whatever the consequences, I've got to be totally truthful. Totally up front. And I don't like one thing that I've seen since this thing came out of their release. Not one thing. Yes, it is. You're the captain of this thing. You arrive in the Arctic without a compass to steer by, without GPS, without marine radio. So I don't care what these guys told you.
Let me change the tempo for a second. Because at another time, another place.
What's happening? When you start off, this whole machine slides this way. We had it in the first groove, and then it just doubled over. Is there any way you can use the pitch to take some pressure off the back?
2 days later, the wind had stopped blowing, the sun was shining, and Jeff was smiling again. We were back on track. It seemed like anything was possible.
All being well, we just left Russia, just left the land and gone onto the sea ice. So if we went properly, we'll go on this all the way until we get to Alaska. I'm not sure it'll work out like that, but in theory that's what's happened. So we cross, we just come off the shore coast, on the sea ice, and we go up north, we'll hit the point we want to take off for the Bering Straits, and we go across it, the Bering Straits right in front of us.
next day our luck had changed. The Arctos was back in trouble. Over the next 2 days, our Russian logistics came to our support.
Volodya is already talking to the welding station.
Yeah. Yesterday we set off very nice and early, it was a good start. And then we had a fire in the engine room. It's screaming and shouting. And suddenly opened the hatch and smoke was pouring out of the engine hatch. So that was a good start. We stopped then, and when we stopped there we noticed that the arm in the middle, the mechanical arm, was actually being sheared off the bodywork. And Volodya said that we shouldn't move any further. So we crept up to this point and we're hoping that he would meet us. But it needs welding done on it, serious welding job before we go any further. So another four steps backwards, really. What we thought was going to be a good day didn't turn out so well. So it's just basically the machine's crumbling around us as we go on. So another dilemma for Richard.
They won't come anywhere near us. I'm scared they might get hurt.
This could be the best beer I've ever had in my life.
I know.
Survived the fire, survived the crash.
How are you?
Still hanging in there.
You fixed?
It's been an interesting day.
We brought
I can't tell you all of how I feel. There's too many people around.
Welding equipment was flown in. An extra diesel was brought to the Arctos. And overall, repairs went according to plan.
They've strengthened everything here. Should have been strengthened before, really, but... And it's very, very lucky for us that we've met some really good specialists here. Who, in these conditions, managed to weld these bits together. I think it'll be fine though, no problem.
And so we took advantage of the repair time to do further scouting of the straits.
Definitely polar bear kill, probably of a ring seal, 200 to 400 pounds. Glad I wasn't here at the time, but it definitely focuses in on one of the big problems out here, and it's polar bears. Hopefully Victor's ready with his big shotgun. So right now we're standing 18 kilometers from Big Diomede, the American one. Arctos is back there 27 kilometers away. We're scouting the ice, and it looks pretty good so far. Better than I thought. There's some open water sections back over there, but this is worth trying. Definitely worth trying.
Вот там ровно стоял, вот ремонтирует на ровной площадке.
Okay.
As our backup team pulled out, leaving everything as prepared as it would ever be, I knew that tomorrow, whatever happened, we had to reunite with the rest of the team. And if the Arctos had one more good day, we'd be driving to America. If not, we'd simply have to get there another way. Time insisted we start the third leg of our expedition. When we woke the next day, we couldn't have got off to a worse start. It was almost hysterically bad.
size of his foot. You're joking.
Is that a big enough animal for you?
Is that 1 foot?
That is 1 paw right there.
What?
This is 1 paw. Why are we laughing? Aren't you glad you didn't sleep out here last night, Richard?
Look at the size of it.
Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Got to weigh at least 1,200 pounds. And he dragged his seal right past
Did you watch
the seal
it?
with blood. No, it's dark as hell.
Maybe.
I kept thinking I was hearing noises.
He wanted to see if they wanted any. He was brought a bit of
He
seal.
came right up to the
Lunch?
window.
Lunch?
This is patriotic. Bolshoi. Bolshoi bear. It's been a frustrating day. We got up at 4. I haven't slept since midnight because I was anticipating a great day. We set out at 5, turned right to go across straight to the Diomedes, and within 200 yards we were stuck and stopped. And we had to winch it out. We've been winching it out for 90 minutes, just got out, saw you coming in the helicopter, and it's a perfect day. It's just the ice is so thin for this vehicle. You can walk on it. You can walk to the Diomedes today, but I don't know what we're gonna do with this vehicle. It's imminently frustrating. I can't imagine how Richard feels. I know he won't say it, but he just must be burning, just burning inside. Unbelievable.
At least it's not Friday the 13th. Yet.
Well, here we are. It's approximately 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's all come to a sad end, hasn't it, Gordon?
Well, I believe it has, Dr. Ford. I believe it has.
Yes, but we have a contingency plan. Is
Yes,
that
we
so?
do. We do have a contingency plan.
Yes. Would you like to tell everybody at home what that is?
Well, the plan is as follows.
Yes.
We have a situation.
Yes.
We have a here and there situation.
Yes, we're here and
they're
they're
there. It's a here to there situation. We're going there from here.
Yes.
On foot.
Yes.
We'll be stopping for tea at 4.
Yes, of course.
And for the evening meal at 7.
Yes. And by that time we should have reached Rachmaninoff, I think.
I should hope so.
And then tomorrow?
Tea and medals.
Tea and medals.
And after that?
And I'll mention you in dispatches.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over to Mr. McInnes. What do you feel about this attempt?
You Brits are nuts.
It was your idea. I'd like to remind you of that.
No, it's the approach. It's the attitude that I love. You guys are crazy.
Right, it's
Let's do it.
It's a here to there situation.
Let's do it.
We need some more of
We'll put
those
on
funny
the-
suits.
the
More
duck
of it.
suits.
I say I like these red suits. You fall in the ice and you can sort of get out again and...
4 hands?
Okay.
Well
No
done.
problem.
Well done.
Well done.
Okay, right.
Right, we're
Call
off
in the
then.
air support.
Should we go right, left, or
Let's
left,
call
right?
it an airstrike.
Let's call
Which
it...
way is it then?
That
Which
way.
way?
Let's go.
That's not that way.
Left,
No, no,
right?
no, it's not.
Left, right, left, right, left. We'll be there in no time, no time at all.
No time at all.
We come. Are we there yet?
Not here, we're there yet.
Oh, I just went through the ice, that's all. Bit like that thing, except I could get out, unlike the Arctos.
Лучше всего переходить на собаку. How far did you go?
Up to my waist.
Этой штуки тоже можно перейти, но
In Rupert's pulling trousers.
Rupert's pulling trousers, yeah.
у нее разворот 50 метров.
It's crazy. I'm not having any part of that thing going out there.
Это льдина
100 yards it got.
уже проблема.
Pathetic. Got more chance of running it.
So it needs to push down more. Try again.
Perhaps it's reached its limit, that particular prototype. I'm not saying, I think it's a good concept. And the idea is good. And maybe
it is on this point because we're being forced back into this because of that condition, but I can't. Anyway, let me try keeping going and see if it gets better, because if it gets worse, then everyone's right and I'm wrong. But I want to give it a go.
We're not saying you're wrong. We're just.
My own view at the moment is that we should keep trying for a bit today, but that unless something massively different happens, then the only fitting way in which the project can go on is for the whole team to walk across into America. We tried everything we could, but things got worse. It's got a big hole in the puncture on the bottom of the front compartment, which is leaking so much water when it's in the water that they can't pump it out with 2 bilge pumps. It's got 2 big slits in the back compartment and a slit at the back of the front. And now, very sadly, both Duncan and Bruce know it can't go any further.
If we'd had some plates of thicker ice, it would have been a very different story. It was just a combination of conditions that it couldn't handle.
What does the failure mean to you personally?
Enormous disappointment, financially, for myself and my family and my company. It's $500,000 sitting there on the ice that we're just walking away from, so it's very serious.
Oh, I mean, it's a hell of a personal disappointment. No question. I mean, but I was just telling Volodya, you know, you can't push on a string. It's a great old engineering expression. You can will something to happen, and you can put your best efforts into it, and you throw all the sort of engineering efforts into it that you can have. But at some point, you have to say, that's it.
And so we were dropped by helicopter at the international dateline between the Diomede Islands, where Russia meets America. We said our final goodbyes to the real friends who put their all into helping us get across Russia and our attempt at crossing the Bering Straits. Our Russian logistics handed us over to our Alaskan guide.
In Alaska, it is 12 minutes after 8 p.m.
in 17.
On the 17th, is it?
Yeah, because 18th over there.
Okay.
17th here.
So here it's the 18th.
You're in tomorrow.
I'm in tomorrow, and it's 5:15 in the afternoon, and it's the 18th, Friday the 18th of March.
Here, come on over and give yourself 21 hours.
Okay.
21 hours, right there. A whole new day.
Yeah.
I think we'll just forget about yesterday.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
You mean tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
We'll forget about tomorrow, pretend it didn't happen.
We'll wipe that out of our memories. It's nice to be in America, though.
It was truly time for another photograph. And we stepped into America. The rest of the team were waiting for us on the western edge of Alaska, just 50 miles from where we'd left the outdoors.
This is Pete, this is the gang, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Hello, Jenny. I didn't meet you the other day, unfortunately.
Yeah, really nice to see you both. I like the badges. Oh, you've got our one on, that's good. Blanchard! Very good. Welcome. How are you? We certainly were well done. Blanchard, welcome back. Welcome back. How are you? Team 35.
Прошел мимо него.
I'm Richard. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and you're from...
Oh, I don't know where I've come from. Somewhere over there.
Somewhere over there.
Okay.
Okay.
Good time. You're a bit tired. You've got rings under your eyes.
It shipped about a foot of water. It's most interesting, actually. As poor command was going to abandon the ship, I went up to Bruce and I pointed out the holes. No problem. Next time I came back, holes like this big, and you could talk to the engineer through it. And that's when you know you're in trouble in a boat. And you can talk to the crew inside from outside. And then that was that. And finally, Volodya, who was saying, until the last minute, we'll keep going. Finally takes a quick look underneath the boat and then goes, I think that's it. But not exactly using those terms.
No, in a Russian expletive.
Expletive, definitely.
I think had we failed in Russia, which was much more likely, it would have been a disaster. But I think it was, basically, we were beaten by the one thing that I don't mind being beaten by, and that's the elements, who said, hey, you guys, stop playing around, And if we are going to try and tackle it, and I'll have another go next year, I expect.
You've planned that already?
I've planned that already.
I think unbelievable.
I think we need to find a machine.
Have you got the start date yet?
No. Well, maybe March, whatever it is. But I think if we're doing that, we have to find a machine which would be useful to people. And I thought the Argos would. I genuinely, my enthusiasm.
It looked the business when we saw it.
And it looked it could actually do a lot of good in areas where there was water and ice. Yeah. Because a lot of people die falling through ice, as we know from the Colorado River. It isn't.
It feels really good to be back as a team, doesn't it?
Yeah. I must admit, that's the best. I've been looking forward to that for ages.
As I've said to these guys from week 2, all our team, that I think the best part of this whole journey is going to be Alaska.
And we started the final stage of our journey with a traditional Alaskan send-off.
Ready? Easy. On the sit back.
Let's go!
In front of us was a 10-day snowmobile expedition across the very heart of Alaska, where in winter the only way to travel is by dog sleigh or snowmobile. The scenery was spellbinding. Most of us had never been on a snowmobile before. Some found it easier than others.
was that at? Don't rev it. It's useless, aren't they? Don't rev it, you'll knacker the engine so it stalls. It's great advice.
We've done the first day of skidooing and now at the beginning of the second day. We're all acutely aware of the dilemmas and the repercussions of not crossing the Bering Straits, but we feel very, very strongly that we've done something which is extraordinary and want to now continue to the very end and drive all the way to New York, and that's what we're doing, and enormous support from London and here. So that's what we're about to do. And the Skidoo Trail looks fine and easy on the first thing, what fun, but when you think we've got 8 days ahead of that, or maybe a few less, it's a very, very real problem, and we could have the kind of whiteout that we saw in Russia very easily. It's at the same geographical part of the world, just a different time zone and a different country, but the weather doesn't care about that. So up ahead of us could be problems exactly the same as the ones we've met in Russia with the whiteout. So we're aware of that, and we'll keep pushing on to try and avoid it. So ahead of us is an unknown again, but that's part of the challenge. That's what we're here for.
At this point, the wind chill is forecast to be 75 to 80 degrees below zero. We'll just see how it goes and do whatever is necessary to ensure the safety of the group.
Despite the lurking dangers of rocks below the snow surface, progress was generally smooth as we slid and skidded our way along for hour after hour. But with so many rookies on the trail, it was slow going. Our day started at dawn and continued long into the night, with just the moon, the stars, the cold, and each other for company.
Yesterday was a 22-hour expedition day. Every expedition needs one. It was incredible to see all of the people working together. That was, to me, the blurry image of yesterday that was so powerful. The Ural trucks, we kind of just sat inside and watched Tundra Man find his way, and we cheered him on. I think last night was totally the opposite, with everyone putting an effort forth, huge effort. Sweat, pushing and getting stuck and going forward, and looking at it from the back, it was great feeling of pride for what our team did last night.
Well, I'm a little tired, like the rest of these piggy-eyed people around me, but I think yesterday was the absolute best day of all, because we had a bit of adventure, a bit of endurance, a few laughs, and we didn't go to bed all night, so it felt like a real expedition.
From my point of view, it's terrific. We got here and we could easily have been stuck so badly on the coast in Unikalid. There's a lot of other people extremely keen to make track and to get on with it, so I don't have to push people now. I can feel that being done by others, so that's a great relief. All the news that we're getting from Darryl and everybody else is that the next sector of the road, of the trail, should be quite easy. The next sector of the trail should be quite easy. There's regattas going on, there's a funeral going on, so the villagers keep on making different trails. We should be able to go down that on the Yukon. We have to keep to the trail because it could be white water in the middle nowadays. We touched a bit of open water yesterday at night when Art was trying to find a different place. But by and large, it should be a relatively easy day.
We're stuck here just outside of town in overflow. Basically, it's water on top of ice. There's no danger of going through, just getting wet. Art's machine went in and then 3 went in after it, so we're just hauling them all out. Hopefully we won't see too much of this because we've got 190 miles to go, and it would make it a long day.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, very long day, I think. It's not a good idea to be starting out into the bush with wet feet.
Well, one thing we can do for that is we could dry them out. We could also get a whole bunch of garbage bags and we can make these things waterproof.
Decision time had come again. Our local guides were telling us the only way to ride the overflow, which comes with the spring, was to have one person on each snowmobile, and with no sleds. If they were right, the team would have to be split yet again. But going quickly around the table.
If there's a significant number going, I will go. If it's a small number, say just Jeff and I, and I think you will go at all costs.
Dieter?
There you go.
Dion? Peter?
Yeah.
Ronnie?
Yeah.
Robin?
I think it's pretty damn stupid, but we'll go.
Okay. We'll go and have a chat and we'll let you know what we're deciding. Are you all going to go along with what we decide? We will. I'm sure that always happens.
No,
right.
you won't.
You won't, bastard! Okay. All right. Talk to you in 5 minutes. As it turned out, the guides felt we all had a 50-50 chance of making it down the Yukon River, but only if we left at the crack of dawn. We did, for what turned out to be one of the best days in the whole expedition.
What is happening, Richard?
You what?
What is happening?
We found a bit of water, and rather than get stuck in it, we thought we'd find a way around it. Watch out.
No, I don't want to go. Why are your legs shaking?
Well, no, they've sort of calmed down now, but up back there, there was all the area of slush. And Larry said to me, right, just take that on up to Tom. I thought, right, okay. And it looked kind of smooth, and I got up closer, and there were all these huge, big dips. And I just whammed that throttle on, and it was going all over the place. And I was jumping up, and I think at one stage I nearly fell off. And I just whammed it up. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
And I just came up here and just gave Art a big hug, and my legs were shaking like mad. It's like doing your first abseil. Your legs are going ding, and then you get down, and it's just fantastic. Such a good feeling. Oh, that was brilliant. These things can move, Larry.
Yeah. All you got to do is drive them. Hang on.
We were flying. That's where Ralph busts his windshield right there.
How can you fly so fast in a blizzard and avoid ice chunks like that and pressure ridges like that? I mean,
last minute. I hit them.
You hit them.
I hit them. Yeah, some places we fly about 50 feet of hitting one of those. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I can light my cigarette. Yeah, darling.
Yes, light your cigarette, man. Yeah, good idea.
You don't have to take my cigarette.
I've got a light for you.
Look.
Very good idea.
It's a bit bumpy, but it's a good trail, and he's a good guy. It's Tom. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be able to do it. So I've got a lot of respect for him, really.
What do you call it again? A wild man. Wild man, right. We've had Tundra Man, now we have Wild Man. Because we give people names who help us out, you see, okay? And we remember them forever. I remember this. Soon you're back in that truck, Sasha, the better. I love you, Dieter.
Oh, Peter, my darling.
До Нью-Йорка 5000 миль, вперед!
And so, 10 days after we left Wales and 25 days after leaving Laurentia, the team and the mechanics were reunited. We were back, driving the cars that had left London and crossed the whole of Russia. We now had just 4 days left in our schedule for a 4,000-mile, day and night drive to Toronto, our last stop before New York.
Until the hour. From London to New York, the long way. The 16-member Overland Challenge set out to make the trip last December, hoping to drive across Russia, the Bering Strait, and Alaska by Easter, and they ran into trouble. But they have some great stories to tell. Joining us this morning, our team leader, Richard Creasy, and navigator Jeff McInnes. Good morning to you both, and congratulations. You're one of the people who came up with this idea. Why drive across the world?
Well, I suppose why not is the quickest answer. No one's done it before. No one's driven across Russia. I can't remember much about my first arrival in New York. At the end of that world trip, I was just 7. But I can remember others. When I arrived on the Queen Mary and cruised up the Hudson River at the end of a 5-day transatlantic passage past New York's unforgettable skyline. And I'll never forget this arrival in New York and our emotions as we drove over George Washington Bridge, with our faithful Ural truck in the back and our police escort in the front. It was just like old times.
Oh, this is just absolutely amazing. My legs nearly started to shake again. Absolutely best day. Fantastic.
This is the city that doesn't sleep, and this team is the team that doesn't sleep. It's so great to be here. It's indescribable. It's the Monday I left in London from, and now I've got Dieter bringing it on home. Mario here.
Mario.
It's time to go party. It's time to go dancing.
It's great, the car driving to New York, and I'm very excited. Oh!
We'd driven 15,800 miles in 101 days. We'd crossed 10 countries. We'd broken 2 records. But for me, our greatest achievement was to demonstrate to ourselves and all who'd helped us that an international team can work together to make a dream come true. And the world is not that big a place.
Very strange feeling to know it's over now and that we made it here, but very, very happy at the same time. So it's nice.
Oh, yes, the end.
I think tonight we have the big party, or not?
It's a big party, that is right.
Yeah.
I feel there's going to be some partying tonight.
There could be some partying, yes. Well done.
Well done, well done. Are you coming? I think you will be.
Очень хорошо. Доехали.
Hey guys.
We go home Wednesday night.
What's the time?
Tuesday.
It's got the Overland Challenge on the front and your UNA UK on the back. And inside it are messages from political leaders from most of the countries through which we've travelled. And it's a real pleasure to let go of it and to give it to you, the United Nations here in New York, all the way from London. Thank you.
Again, on behalf of the United Nations Secretary General,
I declare the Overland Challenge officially and successfully completed. Thank you.
For the rest of my stay in New York, I couldn't resist telling anyone who'd listen. We've just driven here, all the way from London, England. No one's ever done that before.